Looking at these pictures, Shirley, they just, it's chaos. Even when you're not seeing, there's the riot police there coming into the top of frame there, but that is absolute chaos there. I wonder if even the protesters thought it would get this big, because they know they're coming up against a strong security force, but by and large they seem to have overwhelmed it.
Yeah, it really is incredible.
And so you're a bit lost for words, Jed. And fair enough too, because I think we're all quite amazed at what we are seeing here. We're sitting thousands of kilometres away, as I said. But the pictures do tell the story, don't they? Some of the latest pictures came in from Cairo. And let's look at Suez. Talked you through some of these pictures early today. I want to do it again, actually, with Jamal El-Sheikh, who's on the line there. Jamal, well, actually, no, what's happening right now? Then we'll talk through what we saw before. What's happening right now?
Jamal, the situation is probably chaotic is the best way to put it. Protesters have literally taken over the central of the town, or the city, a place called Al Arba'in. They've surrounded the police station there. Some of those who've been detained over the past 48 hours have been freed. Several armored vehicles have been set alight or taken over, thrown on, tipped onto their sides. It's just getting from bad to worse as far as the security services here are concerned. And as far as the protesters are concerned, they tell me they were pushed to this. We saw the demonstrators begin what was a peaceful demonstration, and it was only when they were confronted by large fire engines which tried to ram through these crowds that things turned to the worst.
And these pictures which we're looking at right now, just earlier, Jamal, we've talked the viewers through them again. I think we should do it again, before we should do it again. That line of police that was there, I think you said in one of your earlier reports that 4,000 extra troops were brought in, was that right?
Yes, 4,000 extra troops were brought in Friday morning. That's to add to the several thousand that were already present in Suez. But that seems to have done little, because
exactly the point. Sorry, Jamal. Exactly the point I wanted to make, because the pictures, you're not seeing them just now, but the pictures, the police are actually surrounded by the protesters. It's extraordinary.
Well, I guess the best way to put it is that, well, if the police have recruits, then so do the protesters, because I've been following the demonstrations here over the past 48 hours, and they haven't even been a fraction of the size that we've seen today on Friday. So the call that has been made for Friday to be a day of rage has definitely been heeded by the locals here. Further to that, the fact that all communication has been cut off seems to have done little to deter these people from meeting. If anything, probably people gathered because they couldn't call each other on the phone or couldn't contact each other via the internet, and decided to all gather in one place.
I was saying to Shadi Hamid in the studio before, Jamal, that I wonder if the protesters are even surprised themselves that this has gotten so big. What feeling do you get?
Definitely, there is an element of surprise, but we have to bear in mind, at least according to the people I've spoken to, this isn't an overnight turn. They say this is 30 years of pent-up frustration and anger against the regime that they say has driven them to poverty, has increased the rate of unemployment, is unprecedented, and above all has oppressed them politically according to their words. So they definitely has. I try to move away from the protest right now to get a better signal. However, it seems that the protest continues to increase, and I'm surrounded also by people. So it just shows you that this is increasing literally by the minute here.
That's Jamal El-Sheikh on the line from Suez. Thank you, Jamal. Looking at...
If these scenes are any indication, anger is at boiling point in Egypt, a populace known for its apathy, making history on Tuesday. Thousands marching against poverty and a government they hold responsible. The message loud and clear.
Enough is enough.
Just listen to the chants roaring in downtown Cairo. The hundreds of people walking to the streets. It's unprecedented for people to march to the streets this way as an act of protest without security trying to prevent them.
Inspired by the events in Tunisia, Egyptian activists had been using the internet to call for a day of anger on January 25th, the public holiday that marks Police Day. Calls for an uprising against security forces they repeatedly accuse of brutality, as well as poverty, corruption and unemployment. Frustration has been building up for years. Egyptians no strangers to the kind of economic hardships that toppled the Tunisian regime. But protests had remained limited and many such calls had fizzled out until Tuesday. The day of anger literally breaking new grounds. As this activist in Cairo was telling us how she came here to call for regime change, she was interrupted. And just take a look, by whom?
We're tired, ma'am. We're tired. Stop the price hikes. We're suffering. We're Egyptians. We love Egypt, but stop this. We want to eat. We want to live. We want our children.
Demands echoed across the country.
I'm just a simple Egyptian. I saw people take to the streets and joined. I'm 33 years old. I do not have a job. I'm married, I have kids, and I cannot afford a living. All I want is justice.
For once, it seems internet clicks in Egypt have translated into action on the ground. And for a short while there, security allowed it to happen before once again it became the Egypt activists know all too well. Many here fully aware that though come tomorrow change may not be there quite yet, they have at least broken the fear barrier. Rawi Rageh, Al Jazeera, Cairo. Running from harm's way, people trying to flee the scene of renewed clashes between the crowds and police. Protesters who defied the ban on taking to the streets, clearly not fazed by the zero tolerance police has been showing on Wednesday. In his first remarks since the tension began, the Prime Minister said,
"The Cabinet affirms that all citizens have the right to express their opinion, but in a peaceful way, by peaceful means. Freedom of expression has guidelines. There will be swift and strong intervention by police to protect national security."
But the message from these young men, peaceful, peaceful. That's what their protests have been, they say. Although, as these pictures show, they weren't exactly holding back. And moments later, the response anything but peaceful. The result colored with pain. Earlier, just before sundown, hundreds huddled at the press and lawyers' syndicates, some trying to break the cordon confining them. And it was when they broke through to march, as thousands did on Tuesday, that police went all out. As night fell, the chase continued between the two sides.
They were beating them up with sticks, and there was this 14-year-old who was brutally beaten up by like 5 or 6 people. They just were running after people who, like random people walking in the street. They're not taking part in any like protest, they're just being there.
They opened the tank, al-Mudarra'a, then they took me in. Then they kept on hitting me for more than 5 minutes. They took my camera, they took my mobile, they took my memory card, and they destroyed everything. And after that, they released me. They didn't give me anything.
Just take a look at what happened when we tried to film the aftermath.
This is the area that witnessed some of the more violent confrontations between police forces, riot police, and the protesters. Let's walk a little bit further down here. This is the car that protesters burned. This is actually a police car that protesters burned on Tuesday at the height of their confrontations with police. It doesn't seem that confrontations have fizzled.
That's when police asked us to stop filming. The one thing that went on, the capital's traffic. Rawi Rageh, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
Beneath a flyover in Nasser city, a group of young Egyptians are blocking the road. It's a sign of the lawlessness sweeping Cairo. The men are armed with sticks, knives, anything they can find. They say they're here to protect their homes, because if they don't, no one else will.
We are trying to protect our families, our people, because we heard that there are many criminals, they are killing people and they are taking everything. So we are trying to protect our people.
A car approaches the roadblock. The men jump to attention. They want to know who goes there. This time it's someone from the neighborhood, and they let him pass. The army controls the main arteries into the center of Cairo, but when you get off those main roads, it's the people who own the streets. And the one question on everyone's lips is, where is the police? The police, a hated symbol of the Moubarak regime, are conspicuous by their absence. Since the bloodletting of Friday, they seem to have melted away. These young men hope that the president himself will soon follow.
Everybody hates that man, everybody doesn't want him, so it's over. We won't stop, even if we are all dead, because we are all in danger now. It doesn't matter who's at home and who's at the street, everybody's at the street right now.
In Cairo, at least, an uneasy calm prevails. By taking the police off the streets, the authorities have removed a visible target for people's rage. The petrol bombs are a reminder that the anger is still there and may explode again at any moment. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Cairo.
Latest pictures, recent pictures from Cairo of military vehicles there on the streets as well. Recently we just heard on the if I can say diplomatic side, Hillary Clinton, US Secretary of State, speaking. In fact, let's ask Fawaz Gerges about that. He's been waiting for us over in London. Fawaz, what did you make of what Hillary Clinton had to say?
It's a very, very important statement. This is the strongest statement made by the Obama administration in the last week or so. If you read carefully the first three sentences, she said, "We are deeply concerned about the use of violence by the Egyptian authorities." She said, "We urge the Egyptian government to basically reform immediately." She said that it's the imperative of reform. We support the universal rights of the Egyptians. Obviously, the Obama administration knows very well basically how volatile the situation. The statement itself represents an escalation in the US position. Obviously, the Obama administration has been trying to walk a fine line between supporting its strategic ally in the Middle East. Remember, Egypt is America's second strategic ally in the Middle East after Israel. It provides Egypt with about $1.5 billion a year in military aid. This particular statement shows how anxious the Obama administration is about the recent developments in Egypt, and basically that the situation might be spiraling out of control. The second point I want to make is that the introduction of the military into Alexandria and Suez changes the whole strategic and political situation in Egypt. This represents a major defeat for the security apparatus of the Moubarak regime. Remember what the Moubarak regime said yesterday. The security forces would crack down against any opposition. Basically, they have failed to do so. The power of the people has shown very clearly that now they control the streets in several cities. The introduction of the military is another concession by the Moubarak regime that the situation is escalating beyond its control. And I would argue now the situation and the final decision, the big decisions will likely be in the military hands, not in Moubarak hands. It's really an open, a fluid situation. Everything basically, in the next few days, we'll likely see when the dust settles on the battlefield what kind of a transitional administration might emerge in Egypt.
And it's interesting to see, and let me put this to Nabila Ramdani, who's still with us in London as well, when we talk about the army, the way it's being greeted at the moment. Our correspondent's telling them lots of thumbs up, the people are cheering, they're being viewed in a very positive light.
Well, I think what Professor Gerges said about the introduction of the army is absolutely fundamental. I think it's a further sign of weakness of keeping control over the situation, and the very fact that the regime had to go that far just shows that it's slightly capitulating in a way. We have seen how the regime tried to make concessions along as the day went by offering to negotiate, for example, the resignation of the Prime Minister, but also to offer to form a new government altogether. And of course, for the demonstrators, this is not convincing at all, and they want much deeper changes as far as the structure of the political system is concerned. Perhaps a few words about what Hillary Clinton has just said. It just shows how now the Obama administration is radically changing its tone. I mean, it has not exactly been supportive of the people in the past. It hasn't exactly been concerned about the socio-economic, the very dire socio-economic circumstances of the Egyptian people, and it has, an interest in keeping tabs on what's going on in Egypt. Their main interest is to maintain stability, as they need Egypt as a crucial ally.